Welcome to the Reckoning podcast, where we stoke a campfire, gather around, and have real-life conversations with old friends, new friends, professionals, and just shoot the shit. Reckoning all things from hunting, outdoors, beauty, entrepreneurship, relationships, life, and more. It's all just a reckoning. On this episode, I am joined by Draya from Ridge Patrol, and who is also a professional hunting guide. She is a badass female, and I think that not only the female audience can get a lot from this episode as we talk about tips and tricks for females getting started or just gear that you may need in outdoors coming from, again, a professional hunting guide, but also the male audience can get a lot from this, just from her story in general and how she connected to nature and her experience building a business and also getting into being a professional hunting guide. Who is Draya? Growing up in the lush paradise in Longview, Washington, Draya and her large family were reliant on hunting, fishing, and gardening. Learning how to provide for her family at a young age was a normal expectation growing up, but yet Draya experienced darkness as a young girl, as her brother sexually abused her. Using nature to heal, Draya finds a way to survive among the ferns and the tall evergreens. Learning to hunt gave her the confidence to be independent and brave. Now nearly 32 years old, Draya has utilized those skills to build a business and become a professional hunting guide. Sitting in an office 5 days a week is a foreign idea to her, for her office is the wild. I commend Draya so much for being willing to share her story. We talk more about who she is and her sexual abuse, and also how that led her to being a hunting guide. And then also opening up about what it's like being a female hunting guide and being in the outdoor industry as a female, and just in general, being a hunter. Like I said, she gives so many great tips for hunters to get out in nature, especially females. And if you are wanting more information on Ridge Patrol and maybe some gift ideas for your girl, this is definitely the episode to listen to. I know that you can get so much from this episode, and there's so much to relate to when it comes to using nature to heal. Welcome to the episode, Draya. Well, I am so excited that you joined me. I actually came across you on TikTok, is where I came across Ridge Patrol, which I love how the algorithm kind of works in my favor sometimes there, because I feel like Instagram, I don't quite get fed what I would like to see.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I was excited when I saw that, because I've always been like, I want something specifically for women when it comes to outdoors and clothing. So I was so stoked to see you guys come across my feed. And then as I dove deeper into your TikTok, I guess. I don't want to say Instagram, your TikTok. I kind of got a feel for like you and what you guys have to offer. I would love if you could kind of share, like, how were you introduced to the outdoors?
Absolutely. So I grew up in a family that was reliant on hunting and fishing. I grew up in the West Coast, so Longview, Washington, which was prime habitat for harvesting vegetables and fruit. And, you know, the Columbia River was close by, so a lot of the summer days were spent on the river catching steelhead and salmon. So for me, it's just always been my way of life.
Okay.
And I feel very fortunate for that. So like from a very young age, I grew up in the garden picking weeds and, knowing directly where my food source came from. Mm-hmm. We grew up on 10 acres of land. And so we had tree forts and big rope swings and, a lot of memories from swimming down at the creek. And that was just our way of life. We were always outside running around, exploring, learning. And so it's just always been sort of me as a whole. And yeah.
Do you remember your first like vivid memory outdoors?
I do. I was a little girl. We were down at the creek below the house. So Coal Creek was about a mile from my house, and we would have to like make a trail every summer going down because the weeds, the stinging nettoes, the blackberry bushes, it's a rainforest, so there was a ton of vegetation. So we would clear our path every year going down. And I remember just following behind my older siblings. I had my life jacket on and my little rubber boots, and I remember like all the vegetation being super tall. Everything was just lush and really green. And we got down there, and the creek was fairly big, and you have all these little mini waterfalls, really deep pools, and then all this moss grew on the rock, which was really cool. So it made for like really fun slip and slides. But because I was so little, my parents wouldn't let me swim like in the bigger pools, and I had to just hang out on this smooth rock that had like little puddles of water from when the
Mhm.
water was high, and it kind of created a little safe spot for me to swim. And I still remember like the smell and the air on my skin and like watching my older siblings jump off this big tree that had fallen into this deep pool, and just like someday when I'm big,
Yeah.
I'll be able to jump off that log. And they would get done swimming and run over, be like, "Oh, let's catch some crawdads." And we were always fishing or trying to catch crawdads using like a little stick with some lunch meat. And it was just a very like, it's a wild place, but it felt very, very safe. And it's crazy to think back to like my parents letting us let us going down there at such a young age, because it was a pretty big creek.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of good memories, but that's sort of like that first one that sticks out, where I remember being so small and being like, wow,
Mhm.
this world is amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
All the things I can do when I get bigger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's a beautiful picture. That definitely makes me crave like the springtime warmth and the greenery. Hearing that.
Yeah,
Hearing that.
makes me miss it. Yeah.
Are you located there now or where are you currently?
I am not. I am actually in Montana now.
Okay.
Recently,
And what
just
recently?
yeah, moved here. So I came here to guide for Upper Canyon Outfitters in October, and just fell in love with the place and the company, and always dreamt of living in Montana since I was a young girl. And I just like, well, it's time.
Now or never?
Yeah,
Oh,
there was a lot of sort of like transitions that have happened in the last, I should say, since like fall, and it just felt right. It was like, all right, it's time to start over and start new, and so here I am.
I know you have quite the incredible story when it comes to like what led you to be in the outdoors like you are and guiding. Is that something you could share? Like what kind of led you to be so in depth into nature?
Absolutely. That's a big rabbit hole, and I could go on for hours. I'm actually writing a book about my connection to nature, that I found as a little girl, and so I can kind of just give a little snippet of that. But like I said, grew up in a family reliant on hunting. All of my memories from growing up are from outside. I couldn't tell you anything special about being inside. We didn't have a TV growing up. Grew up in a fairly religious family. And so our life was pretty modern. And like I said, the outdoors was essentially all I knew. And when I was about 10 to 12 years old, I was sexually abused by my brother. And because of the religion that my family practiced, and they still practice today, obviously I left that religious practice a while back. Sort of the way you cope with things is you forgive and you forget and you move on. And so that was what I believed as a young girl. So like being a victim of sexual abuse, I was like, you know what? God forgives him. God forgives me. I just have to move on. But that doesn't fix things. That doesn't heal you. That doesn't make it okay. And so I essentially went into the fight, flight, freeze, all of that mode, on just trying to survive. So I had no regulation of my emotions. I was constantly living in fear. Like I was terrified to go to sleep at night. And in the summertime, I would sleep on the porch because I hated sleeping in my bedroom. That was like the scariest place for me to be. I had a lot of nightmares pretty much every night growing up. I had nightmares, essentially reliving that trauma day after day after day. But for one, when you're a victim, it's really hard to know like, oh, this was wrong, like I need help. And so because of the religious teachings as well, I was just kind of in this tunnel vision of like, okay, I just need to survive. And so I would have these overwhelming emotions that would come over me, whether it was my brother teasing me or my sisters not letting me play with them, or just like I would get home from school and like was so bundled up in like anxiety in school all day, and I would just run to the forest And so I actually have a snippet of my book, if you won't mind me reading.
Yeah, I would
That
love
kind
to.
of,
And when are you experiencing this to give us a time frame as far as all this happening
yeah.
and your feelings?
hmm So I was roughly like 10 to 12 years old when the abuse happened. And
Okay.
so I didn't tell anybody for 15 years. I lived with that, it became a suppressed memory. So that's something that actually happens with a lot of people is they suppress the trauma that happens to them. And trauma isn't necessarily sexual abuse or physical abuse. Like trauma happens in our lives on the daily, and I think a lot of people don't realize it. And so essentially my entire early childhood and teenage years and then my young adult years were stuck in this tunnel vision of high anxiety, no self-esteem. I had no self-esteem, no confidence, and I always was the one just trying to entertain everybody. I'm a very personable person, and so like I would get in a room full of like 200 people at like some church event and would just act super goofy and make everybody laugh because deep down I was so sad and so scared, and that was sort of my armor, right? Like that's what I would use to like show people, hey, I'm okay. Like I'm not sad. I'm not scared in this situation right now, constantly watching my back. And so years 10, 11, 12, roughly in there is when it happened. And then it wasn't until my early 20s that I actually started seeking professional help and started realizing the severity of that amount of years of just living in a victim mentality. Like I didn't know anything different. But there's a little snippet of my book I would love to share with all of you. It's just a quick little idea of how I escaped to the wild. The ferns seemed to give off a new energy that day as I laid among them. The combination of yesterday's passing rainstorm and this day in particular sunshine brought vibrance and life to everything it touched. And I couldn't help but drop my hands to the earth, feeling her vibrations flow through me. I felt calm, at peace, and safe. The ferns that surrounded the forest floor stood at about 3 feet tall, creating an entirely different perspective when sitting down. The smell of dirt and life filled my nostrils, and I took a deep breath in, and with each breath, my heart stopped racing and my mind became clear. I felt safe here among the tall evergreens that swayed above, like that of a giant holding a baby, rocking back and forth slowly. The birds would sing their happy songs, and I would get lost in their unpredictable melody and the variety of pitches they could reach. Deer would feed not too far away as the fawns ran about, playing. And if the wind was in my favor, they wouldn't even notice me sitting there. I would spend hours in this exact spot, and time seemed to fade away. A monarch dragonfly would often buzz by, occasionally landing on a fern, and would lock eyes with me, but only for a brief, quick moment, and then it was off again. Anytime I was feeling anxiety, nearly having a panic attack, I would run to the forest. I would run to the spot I talk about, and there I would ground myself. This was how I unknowingly coped with the fact that my brother sexually abused me, or how I didn't feel safe in my own home. Of course, I didn't know this then. I was just trying to survive. I was constantly living in fight or flight, and in an instant, as soon as things got uncomfortable, I would run. Years down the road, when I started seeing a counselor, she asked me if I ever was suicidal as a child, and I told her no. She informed me that most people who experience sexual trauma to the extent I did often weigh the option of continuing their life. But because I had such a profound connection with Mother Earth, that is what saved me.
Wow.
I get the
I,
chills reading it. Like,
there's so much that I can relate to that when it comes to the way that you describe connecting with the outdoors. And I appreciate you being willing to share that with everyone because there's so much power in the healing of nature.
absolutely. It's what got me through my childhood. It's what kept me from essentially being suicidal. And I believe 100% like I was meant to have that experience. And it's put me on this amazing trajectory of my life now of starting a business such as Ridge Patrol and being able to be part of something so much bigger, such as this beautiful sisterhood that's now evolving because of our brand, where women are finding that confidence in the field, and they're connecting with like-minded women as well. It's not just about the clothing, it's a much bigger picture. And to be in a hunting guide, and it's not about getting my clients an animal, it's about giving them that experience to be able to connect while they're out there in the field. And each client has their own story and their own path. And so like that part, I have had some pretty life-changing experience through that. And so, you know, essentially I'm grateful for my childhood and for all of that, because now it's put me in this situation of having such that profound connection that I will never go and get an office job. I will I will do whatever I can do. Like I'm tucked away in my little cabin right now, and nothing but mountains surround me. And my birthday is coming up on Saturday, and I was telling my boyfriend the other day, I was like, we should go to Bozeman and like go get sushi and like play cornhole for my birthday. And then I was like, I don't want to do that. Let's go rabbit hunting and let's have a good dinner at the cabin at the end of the day. Like, yeah. The power that nature holds, I believe has become very disconnected from our society today. Throughout my life, especially like my early 20s, my friends were always like, why are you always going out to look for elk? Like, why are you always going out in the woods? Like, what's so cool about it? Because I would get done at work. I worked for a rafting company as a whitewater guide for 10 summers. And as soon as I got down on the river, I would take off and go scout for elk. My friends were all drinking beer, hanging out, playing cornhole. And they're like, Draya, you're on a different level. Like, why are you always running to the woods? And I'm like, it's my sanctuary.
Exactly. That's how I feel too. Take me where I don't have service and where I can just be like, it's just so zen for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you decide in 2023 that you were going to take your health and your wellness more seriously? I hope so. If you have, and you are looking for something to help elevate that experience and honestly make it that much more simple as well, kind of a no-brainer, you need to be checking out Mountain Ops. I know if you've listened to the podcast that we are long time lovers of Mountain Ops, and there is a reason. Not only do we love their products, but we love the mission behind the company. Not only do they have the best supplements and gear out there that are designed for the athlete and hunter in mind, but every time a purchase is made at mountainops.com, a nutritious meal is prepared for a child in need. That is done with the Operation Conquer Hunger team that works with charity partners to manufacture a nutritious meal. The charity partners work with a validated organization and local governments to transport and distribute, and meals are given to children in need. This is all from mountainops.com. If you weren't already looking for some nutrition and supplements, that mission alone should make you want to go over to mountainops.com and take a look. If you are wanting to know our favorites over at the podcast, you know we love their Ignite, the supercharged energy and focus. This is fantastic to put in your pack, especially as we get going into shed hunting season. You're going to want these. Seriously, it gives you that boost of energy that is good, clean energy instead of those stupid energy drinks that you have in your pack. And then, of course, you know we love their protein bars. Again, easy to throw in your backpack. And they are seriously like the softest, they're like a soft, baked, delicious bar that you can always reach for in your backpack. And even my kids love these, which says a lot. And of course, at night, you know you're trying to cut back on those drinks or just having a hard time going to sleep and you're needing a little bit of that help or some recovery, you have to check out my favorite, the Slumber for deep sleep recovery, that has a special blend of magnesium and melatonin, and you wake up rejuvenated. There's none of this grogginess the next day. If you want to support the show and see what Mountain Ops is all about, go to mountainops.com and you can shop all of their nutrition and gear. And don't forget to use the code Britt Free Ship to get your free shipping and help support the show. Again, that's Britt, BRITT, Free Ship, to get your free shipping. So you're going through, you said you were kind of like going through therapy and figuring all this out. Is that then what led you to guiding? Like, can you describe what's happening with yourself and where Ridge Patrol comes into play and then guiding?
For sure. So this year was my 6th year guiding, so I've been guiding for a while. But ever since I was young, like I was telling I would like take my little brothers out in the woods behind the house and my sister, let's go look for elk. I was always itching to share that with people. And like, I loved the challenge of trying to find animals and get close to them. And I actually write about this experience in my book. It was my very first solo hunt, solo pack out in Colorado. So I lived in Colorado for 10 years. That's where I started guiding back in, I believe it was 2017. But I drew a really good mule deer tag. It was a rifle tag. My sister also drew that tag. So my dad and her, they went hunting and I went out by myself. I was determined to shoot a mule deer all by myself. And so I went out.
And how old were you?
Let's see. I was 2 now. So I was like late 20s. So that was
Okay.
probably like 27.
Perfect.
And got out there, had this amazing experience. Like I said, I write about it in my book, and I didn't realize how much of an impact that hunt would have on me until I was in it. And I killed this beautiful monster mule deer, and I was standing there above him and was just filled with so much gratitude. I cried. I had this amazing moment. Was like, wow, nobody's here to help me. Like I've got a lot of work. I've got a lot of work to do. I couldn't call anybody for help. I didn't have service. And so I said, all right, it's just, you got to do it. So I cut that animal up. I deboned all the meat. So it was a little bit lighter to carry out. And I threw that entire mule deer on my pack with my gun, and I hiked out of there. And that was one of the hardest things I have ever done, physically and mentally, hiking back to the truck. It was about a 3-mile pack out, and I would go 100 yards and have to sit down. My legs were shaking, and the biggest, like, it's almost impossible to put into words the experience I had, because I realized who I was in that moment. For so many years of my life, I was so weak. I thought of myself as like a very small person that wasn't worthy of love, that wasn't worthy of anything good, all these negative aspects from my trauma. And as I packed that deer out, I was just like, wow, you are capable. You are so strong. You have the power to do whatever you want to do, and you can do it as long as you put your mind to it. And so I just had these mantras. I get the chills talking about it now. Like, I had these mantras as I was packing this deer out. I would go 100 yards and just would, you are worthy, you are worthy. And I would take a break to the next spot and just be like, wow, like, you are so capable of anything you want. And I would just keep hiking. And in that moment, I was like, maybe I should look into becoming a hunting guide. Like, it was just kind of a thought that went through my mind, but I was so focused on like the task at hand that I didn't really give it too much thought. A couple of days later, I was at the bar with my girlfriend, and we were just having like a good time catching up. So much testosterone in the room that we were just like actually pretty annoyed.
Yeah.
And this guy, my friend Bill came over to the bar and was like, hey, my friend Pat and I are playing pool over here. You want to come play a game of pool? We're like, okay, sure. And so Bill and Pat were hunting guides for the previous outfitter that I worked for. And, we started talking, and they were saying how they were hunting guides and they were on break. And Amy was like, oh my gosh, Drea, you got to tell him all about your mule deer hunt. Oh my gosh, my friend's so badass. Tell him, you got to tell him about this big buck you just shot, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. So I told them the story, showed them the photos, and they're like, wow, you should come work with us. I was like, what, really? Like, is that simple? And they're like, yeah, like, we don't need you this year. Season's pretty much over. But if you want to come guide with us next year, we'll put a good word in with our boss, and you've got a job. And so that's how I got into the guiding world. But it was always something that I loved doing. Like, I would take my siblings out, or friends that had never hunted. I always encouraged them to come along with me, because I just wanted to share that space with as many people as I could. Like I said, it wasn't about notching the tag and killing animals. It was about sharing that experience with others because I find it's the best drug out there.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was that something you were, when they're telling you, like, I love the fact that you're getting like these little, like inspirations as you're having that moment of clarity and solitude, and almost sometimes being on the mountain is almost like one big meditation, I feel like, because you're just one with yourself and your body's moving. And then you get this opportunity that's thrown at you not that long after. Were you having moments of like, holy shit, I'm going to do this? But did you feel like you were fully ready and capable to be a guide? Or did you feel like that next year until the next fall, you were kind of like taking everything in and prepping yourself to be this guide?
Yes and no. So I met these guys in the fall of 2017. And I was like, all right, if you're going to be a hunting guide, you've got to learn as much as you can. Like, I've never been somebody that gives, half-asses it. I want to be able to give 110%. I want to know what I'm doing when I'm out in the field with a client. Like, it could go south pretty quickly. And I knew these people were paying a lot of money to come out. And so I wanted to make sure my skill set was there. So the following September, I took the entire month off and I went out on a quest to learn about elk and mule deer and bear and their habitat. And I set up camp at the spot we call the honey hole that my family found. And I stayed there for the entire month. My family would come on the weekends and hunt with me, but I spent a lot of days by myself in the woods. And I learned so much, not only about the wild game and their habitat, but about myself. Like I just felt reborn, and I had this new appreciation to learning about, why are elk here at this time of year, or like, why do I need to hike so far to get here? And then like just the lessons within myself as well. And so I took that entire month of September. I was just like, I don't care if I harvest anything. I want to learn so I can apply it for October when I would go to the outfitter to guide for rifle season. And I learned a lot. And I feel like that's where a lot of people struggle when they're first getting into hunting, is they get so down on themselves because they're not successful or they're not finding animals. And I've always told people, the more time you spend in the field, the more experience you get, you're going to ultimately become a more successful hunter. And it just comes down to time. And like I said, that month of September, I learned so much versus like, majority of people go out for a few days because they've got to work. And I said, screw it. I am not working for the entire month and I'm going to go do this. And I learned a lot, like I said, not only about the habitat and the animals, but really about myself. And it really sort of cleared my mind as to like, what do I want to do with my life moving forward? I felt like I had crossed the bridge of like becoming more confident and like finally having that feeling within myself of, I'm no longer a victim. I am not going to let that part of it define me, versus I'm going to let it be fuel. And having that just essentially month long of meditation really sort of put a lot into perspective of how I wanted to move forward with my life. Started writing my book while I was out there. And of course, that part of my book is I've written my book 4 times and I'm on my fifth round. And I feel like it's finally from like a good, healthy perspective, versus then I was just like angry, anxiety. Oh, this is amazing. Like,
Yeah. Working through all the emotions while writing.
Yeah.
I can imagine that's therapeutic in itself, just writing a book. And I give you kudos for that, because I am not a writer.
I never was, but that was a skill my therapist taught me. It all started with writing down my emotions, because that was something I had a really hard time regulating, was my emotions. And so I would be like hot to cold. Like, I wasn't bipolar, but it was just like I never learned how to deal with my emotions growing up. And so she was like, all right, this is your homework. Anytime you feel something, I want you to write down what you're feeling, and then I want you to just sit with it. And whatever comes out on paper comes out on paper. So I don't have a degree in writing or English lit or anything, but here I am writing a book. And I think that all started sort of with my therapist when she first was like, just write about it.
Is that something you still do today, is write out your emotions to figure them out?
Not necessarily to figure them out. but I write a lot about a lot of different things. I feel like my writing has evolved a little bit more now. But I do like to write about certain situations so I could put it out there to the world, because I feel like a lot of people get stuck in their own little bubble and they think like, oh, no one else is feeling this way. I'm the only one. But when you can share your emotions with, like, especially on like social media, it's a great platform for it. People can relate and people are able to connect with that and sort of ground themselves with that.
That is the cool aspect of social media, is being able to connect with people that either not even necessarily like-minded people, but that kind of connect with you on different aspects of what it is that you're going through.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And do you remember your very first client that you guided and how that hunt went?
Oh, absolutely. It was great. His name was Steve, and we're still friends to this day.
Oh, cool.
And it was my very first day on the job, and he showed up as a self-guided hunter. They were staying in one of the remote cabins, but he came down to camp and was like, "Hey, I got a mule deer tag. I'll pay one of your guides $500 if they put me on a good mule deer." And my old boss looked over at me and he pointed at me and he said, "There's your lady. We call her Miss Tenacity." And of course, all the guides, they were, "Oh, you should go here. You should check this spot out," because they wanted me to be successful. But I was like, all right, okay. But really, I knew exactly where I wanted to go. And I took him there and he harvested a great muley that day. And we've been lifelong friends since then.
Right on. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find that, I'm kind of curious, being a female guide, do you feel like you're embraced as a female? Or do you feel like there's a little bit of hesitancy of like, okay, can she do this?
Yeah. Crazy you asked this question, because leading up to this last fall, yes, I felt 98% of the time I was supported. A lot of the clients thought it was amazing that they had a female guide. And, a lot of them sort of were a little bit hesitant coming into the hunt. But at the end of the hunt, they were just like, wow, like super impressed with your skills. And, I put a lot of my clients on opportunities as well. And so, like I said, 90% of the time, yes. But the outfitter I was previously working for this last year, so in 22, I took a new role with them with managing their 2 remote cabins, and I had worked for them for 5 previous years, and just put a lot of my heart and soul into that place, and made a lot of really good connections with a lot of clients. And I felt like I was building something for myself that was really cool and unique. I was managing these cabins, so I was booking all the clientele. I was taking care of all the work. So from firewood, cutting down firewood for the cabins, to renovating the cabins, to creating like natural cooler space for our food to store, scouting, all the customer service that gets involved with the clientele. I was busting my ass 24/7 and wasn't making great money, but I was doing what I loved. And there were a few red flags that would come up, but they always chalked it up to, oh, these are just growing pains, Draya. Like, we're just trying to figure this out. And I'm like, all right. But one of the guides showed up, and this man and I in particular never really got along. The very first conversation I had with him that year before was him telling me Ridge Patrol would never succeed. And I was like, okay, well, you know what? It is going to, and I'm going to let that comment be fuel. And I'm going to show you someday that we will be the #1 women's gear out there. Just give us some time. We're at that time, we were just under a year in business, so pretty new. And this gentleman in particular, sort of, he gave me a little bit of a bad taste, and he gave me a look into sort of the sexism that goes on within the hunting industry, being a woman. Essentially, I experienced sexual harassment from him last fall. He made some pretty nasty comments about me and a dildo in front of his wife, clients, other guides, and apparently the boss was there too. Everyone sort of chalked it up to, he maybe had a couple beers and it was just a crude comment, and like, you shouldn't take it hard on yourself, Draya. Like, don't let one comment from one person ruin your day. You're just being triggered from your past trauma, and like, you can get past this. Like, downplaying this comment from this guide versus being like, this is not acceptable, especially at all, but especially in the hunting industry as professionals, like this is not acceptable. We should take actions. They did talk to him and he admitted to being a sexist pig. I still have not received an apology from him. So ultimately, I just walked away from that outfitter and found this job here in Montana, which once again, another step that like, I'm super happy that happened. Like, not happy that this man was making these gross comments about me. Like, he literally made me so sick. Like, I was in camp and having to see him, and like it definitely brought me back to the days when I was dealing with my past trauma, and like those emotions came back. Felt very violated, very disrespected. Especially, I worked so hard and put so much time, and like I brought in a lot of money for that company with their hunters, and to be treated that way and for them to react that way, I was like, I will no longer work for a company or anybody who is going to treat me this way, especially when I've put so much time into this place. And so, yeah, 98% of the time it's been amazing and it's been supportive, but there have been instances like that. And, you know, I've had some clients that were always questioning my judgment in the field, and you have to just sort of work with them. You know, you're just like, all right, I have this client for 5 days. I can get through this, but it's bound to happen, you know? I feel like you and we are this next generation of hunters, and I feel very strongly it's very important to talk about the mental health aspects that are associated with being in the field and addressing these issues as they come up, not to like point fingers or place blame, but like, this is not acceptable.
Definitely. No, I think it is. It's a strong thing to talk about, and it should be addressed. And it goes to show too, like, honestly, it's in any industry as well. Just when it comes to, I mean, you'll get an asshole anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And it is, I think it is pretty cool seeing, as time's gone on, even since, you know, I've been in my 20s, or even I just remember going to camp as like a little girl with my dad, and we'd be on guided hunts, and he'd roll in with me and they'd be like, is she's hunting? Yeah. You know, but I think it is evolving, and it's nice to see that. And it's nice to see women in the outdoors too, that are showing up as who they are, and as athletes and as hunters, and not just in this sexist kind of way.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like we're bringing the feminine energy.
Yeah.
You know, they say Mother Earth, she's a feminine being, she's a feminine energy. And I feel like it's just kind of coming back full circle now with that. It's really great to see these ladies who are taking that plunge, and they're learning how to be self-reliant on the land. And, you know, it's not easy to learn how to kill an animal and to be able to pack it out. And I feel very grateful to have the past experiences these last couple years with being able to go out with some of my good friends and strangers, like women I had just met, all because usually through social media, and to be able to see that just confidence, like in their face as they like conquer a mountain, like the simplest things, like hiking that mountain and being like, oh. And then especially if you hear a bugle up on top of the mountain, it's like, whoa, what is this world? Yeah. It's the best drug there is, like I said earlier.
And I think too, as women, like in the outdoors, I think it's good to be confident, but also to be willing, like not everybody's against us being in the outdoors. Sit back and learn, just because we have a lot to offer the male side, and they have a lot to offer us. And it's just people in general, there's a lot to learn from one another.
Exactly.
Throw everything you know about website templates. These are cocktail inspired, completely customizable websites designed for people who give a damn. They are designed for you by tonicsiteshop.com. What I love about Tonic is they give you a totally unique, awesome website at a fraction of the cost. Seriously, custom sites typically cost more like $20,000. You don't have to learn how to code. I know. Breath of relief. It's drag and drop it like it's hot. in Show It's Design dashboard. These aren't your typical templates. Super intentional, designed to convert, built with a ton of strategy and even super helpful copy prompts. I'm serious. Check out thereckoningpodcast.com. This was designed with Tonic Site Shop. It's so easy to use and update anytime you have a great idea. No need to hire a developer every time you need an update. And I just genuinely love the aesthetic of it. And I'm serious, it's going to attract your dream clients, your dream customers. Use my special discount code RECKONING15 for 15% off your new design templates. And yes, they even have payment plans. Go to tonicsiteshop.com and use my special discount code RECKONING15 for 15% off your new website design. Buy it today and you'll be launched with a new beautiful design for 2023 next week. So when does Ridge Patrol come into play? We've mentioned it several times. Can you kind of give us how that all came about?
Absolutely. So I was living in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, 3 winters ago. So we started in 2020, I guess, like when COVID all went down. And I met my business partner, Bevan, through Rocky Mountain Sportswomen, which is a nonprofit there. I was an ambassador, or I am an ambassador for them. So my good friend, Elena, she's the founder. So she runs that. So they put on free fly fishing or free like fly fishing events, ice fishing events, snowshoeing, just like getting women together in the outdoors. Everything's free because they want women to be able to have that accessibility to be able to connect and learn. And so I met Elena through there, and she had reached out to me saying, hey, I know this lady Bevan, she's attended a few of our events. She started up a clothing line, Ridge Patrol, and she's looking for ladies to try on her gear, her clothes, and give feedback. Being 5'1", fairly stocky and muscular, like I was, and my friend Elena, super tall and like lean and skinny. So we had plans to go there together and try on the clothes and give her feedback, but some things happened and Elena couldn't go. And I was like, well, I'm going to go. Like, this seems like a cool opportunity. I've always been an opportunist too. So I look at things like, you never know what can come from this connection. Showed up at her house. We instantly connected. I tried on the clothes and just kind of fell in love with the whole idea that she had behind the brand. She didn't grow up in a family that hunted. Like, she had very limited experience hunting. So with her ex, they did a lot of turkey hunting and a lot of waterfowl hunting. And she always felt very uncomfortable in the clothes, the camo, the hunting clothes that she was wearing. She felt they were not made with the woman's body in mind. They were very restrictive. They were very unflattering. Like, she would change at the vehicle before going to the grocery store to get stuff for dinner because she didn't want to be seen in these clothes. And so Bevan gets all the credit for starting up Ridge Patrol. I simply came along once all of that got evolved. And so we tried on the clothes, and little bit by little bit, I started helping her like with her Instagram and her photography. I tested out her clothes for her on a mule deer hunt in Arizona. So I went to Arizona that winter of 2020 and chased Q's deer and mule deer in the desert and tested out her pants for her, got some content, and just started growing through social media. You know, I was posting and doing all these things, and people started engaging in it and started realizing like, oh, wow, like that this is very much needed in the world today. Like, women hunters is one of the largest growing demographics, and it's hard for ladies to find clothing that not only like performs, but when I wear my Ridge Patrol gear, which I'm wearing it right now, and I wear it all the time, but especially in the field, like when I have my Ridge Patrol clothes on, I feel like invincible. Like, I feel like I can conquer any mountain. I feel like, I always call it like my gown, you know, like someone has their dress, like their ball gown, but like that is the clothing that like makes me feel fierce. Mm-hmm. And so that's really the idea behind the brand is, you know, we are fierce women and we deserve clothing that can keep up with us no matter what trail we take. And so that's sort of like our mantra. And we've been in business, it was a year in August, so about a year and a half now. and everything's made within the US. We are working on some really cool prototypes right now. It's rain gear. There's nothing like it on the market. But to back it up a little bit, so I tested out the gear in the Arizona hunt, started managing social media for Bevan, and our connection just really grew. I think she saw my obsession and my love for hunting and being in the wild. And of course, I helped her critique the clothes early on, and we ended up with our first line. We launched it, and we had a successful first pre-sale. And she asked me to come on as her business partner. And I was just like, oh, that's really amazing. Like, I never went to school for business or anything. And she's like, that's fine. I'll handle all the logistics. You're going to be my gear gal. So technically my title is CMO. So I'm the marketing person. So moving forward, I test out all the gear. I draw them up. So I have the ideas, and I'm in the field 300 days out of the year. And so I feel like I bring something to the table that a lot of these clothing lines do not have, is because I'm literally living it all the time. And, I am testing it out in all the elements, the desert, the mountains, rain, snow, you name it. Granted, we are pretty small and we only have the one line right now. And so we're evolving as a small business. I'm really excited for where it's bringing us. The sisterhood that has been created really warms my heart. Super grateful for the connections that I've been able to make through that. And just, like I said, seeing that confidence that these women have on their face when they are wearing our clothes and they're out there, whether they're skiing or hiking or shed hunting or hunting, you name it. Our clothing is essentially designed for the outdoor women, but specifically geared towards the hunting woman.
And can you give us an idea of what you have in that line for clothing?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's like a spring fall line. We have our Ridge Runner pants, which we have completely sold out. The ladies love our pants. They are designed more so for warmer weather or for constantly moving. So if you're sitting in a tree stand, not the best pant to wear, which I experienced that in Pennsylvania. Last month, my boyfriend and I were there seeing his family, and we did some tree stand hunting, and I had to wear really warm layers underneath. But for active wear, yesterday we went and climbed the mountain in the snow, and I was completely fine. They have side zips on the side, triple layer on the butt and the knees, more of a lighter weight, water resistant material. And so the ladies love our pants. Those have sold out. The fleece, which I'm wearing, is a very durable layer. So if I'm going out to chop firewood, or if I'm going to go camping, or I literally wear it for everything, but it holds up really well. It's got a nice high neck on it. It's really warm and cozy. We've got yoga pants, tech tops, tank tops. And then we have a hoodie, which I wear all the time. It's like a lightweight hoodie. So our hoodie, our leggings, our tech top, and our tank are all made out of recycled materials. So they're all made out of recycled water bottles. And it's very flattering, soft fabric. We kind of envision our brand to be somewhat like a Lululemon of hunting. So something that's very comfortable and you feel good in it, and it's going to breathe, it's going to perform, it's going to move with you. It's not going to be restrictive. We all know what that's like to hike a mountain. Yes. And the pants are restrictive and they're hot and they don't breathe. But when I'm running up a mountain wearing my Ridge Patrol, I feel like I can move effortlessly and be very comfortable. And then we have our jacket as well. So it's just a very basic, like I said, spring, fall line. I guess summer technically too, because of our tech top, our tank top. I wear those scouting in the summer all the time, our leggings. But we're currently working on a waterproof bib and jacket, which has a really cool design. I'm not going to give out the details yet, but there's nothing like it on the market, and we're just waiting on our final drawing for me to approve, and then we're going to get that prototype up and running. And so within probably 2 months, I will be sharing with everybody that prototype, and they'll be able to see the design and sort of what's to come.
Nice.
That won't be available for purchase probably until 24, just because it is such a complex technical piece, and it's going to take probably a few prototypes before we have that piece finalized and ready for production.
Nice. I see. What's the jacket that you're wearing right now? You said it's your wool because it has that big, tall neck. And then does it have thumb holes?
It does.
So our hoodie, a thumb hole sells me.
Yes, I love it. Like I said, I wore it hiking yesterday. I wore our hoodie underneath because it has the big hood and the built-in like buff, and then with this, and it zips all the way down to like your belly button. So when you get hot, you can zip it down. It's got a nice pocket. You can store chapstick, whatever you want in there. But yeah, it's just an overall like solid piece of, I've had this one for 2 years and I have one teeny little hole in it, and that's probably from cutting firewood or something like that. But
that happens.
Yeah.
If someone was to start with your line, what would you say would be like 2 pieces that you would suggest either a female buy for herself or maybe someone? Valentine's is around the corner, guys. If you're listening, this would be the perfect gift.
Mm-hmm. The hoodie I love because, for one, it's flattering. So we only have it available in camo right now, but our camo is really nice. We have a really good design. It's not like redneck looking. It's flattering. But I would say our hoodie, because you can literally wear it for anything. You can, if you like to fly fish, if you like to hike, if you can literally wear it lounging. I wear it all the time. So our Alpine Glow hoodie or our Dusk Breaker jacket. My boyfriend told me the other day, he said, that's my favorite outfit that you wear. It was a pair of Levi jeans with my Dusk Breaker jacket.
That seems accurate.
It has a flattering fit to it. Like I said, that's sort of our, we want ladies to look and feel good in our clothes. And that's what's missing in the industry is clothes that look good. And so it's flattering. I've had a lot of friends say like, oh, I wore it to the rodeo or I wore it to date night. It has the high neck as well. It's water resistant and wind resistant. It's fleece lined, and it swoops a little bit lower in the back to give that flattering look. But I wear it all the time. It's available in green and in camo. And if anyone's and I'll drop my personal discount code right now, which is Draya, Draya 10. So if any of you are listening and you want to place an order, whether that's for yourself, for your wife, for your lady, your sister, your mother, you name it, you can use my personal discount code Draya 10 to receive 10% off of your order.
Right on. Thank you so much, Draya. That's awesome. There's something to be said about, I know there's always like a big discussion of like, what's the best camouflage, la-di-da-di-da. And there's just something about if you're comfortable and you feel confident, I think that definitely goes to show in your performance. Absolutely. Whatever that is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I've had deer and elk 10 yards away from me. I've been wearing all green.
Right.
But you play the wind right and whatnot.
That's how I always
It doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter which camo pattern you have on out there. Like there's other factors that play into it.
Exactly. That's always my big thing. But if you're confident and you feel good, like if you're comfortable, then you're going to be out in the field longer and able to perform and get in different positions because you never know where you're going to find yourself and needing to move. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious now, like what does the day in the life of you look like being a guide and a business owner?
Absolutely. It's quite the hustle. So right now it's nice because I'm coming off of essentially 6 months of working really hard, and just got home from Pennsylvania to see the family for the holidays and do some hunting there. And so now it's jumping into, the work that we have for 23. And so Bevan and I are the only 2 members of Ridge Patrol. So we carry a huge workload. She handles the logistics. I handle, like I said, gear, photography, connections like this, reaching out to companies. So you're constantly through social media, trying to connect, trying to engage, constantly working on posts. I cannot wait until I can pay somebody to be able to take over social media because I would love to have more time in the field. But it's just the small business grind of you are working constantly. There are no days off. Um, I I try really hard to, when I'm with people, to try and use that time for them and to be like, I don't always want to be that person that's constantly on my phones trying to post, but it's a grind. You
Totally.
have to. It's a lot of work, and especially being so new and small, evolved. There's a lot of pieces of gear. So like I'm like, oh, I have this idea, so I'll draw up a piece of gear. Like I need to get this on paper now before I forget about it. And you throw it into my stash of like future gear for Ridge Patrol. um, yeah, just a constant grind. Like I said, it's off season now from hunting season, and so that sort of takes away that. But that's when I feel like I'm in like my prime, is during guide season, because when I'm out in the field, I'm getting all that content. I'm getting those experiences with the clients, and I feel like I'm really able to portray that through our business and to really highlight the important aspects of what it is to be a hunter. Like it's so much more than just a clothing line. It's a way of life. And so I feel like when hunting season's here, we have a really good opportunity, not only through myself, but all these other women who are out in the field and they're sharing about it too, that it feels good.
Do you have like a set routine? I would imagine coming off of guiding season and just the hunting season in general, it's always kind of weird for us, and we're not out like you are like every day, but it's kind of like when a sports season ends, because that's what it is. And then you're kind of like in this limbo of like, well, now what do I do? And now you're a business owner too. So are you finding that you have to kind of like find your new normal and kind of set a routine for yourself so you don't get into that, like, I don't know. For me, it's like a depressive state if I'm not like having my routine and going through the flow of things.
Yeah. I really like to utilize the winter as, so they call it like the hibernation time.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to take that time to really just like try and organize everything. Yeah. Like it's coming off of like, it's almost overwhelming. I've got taxes, and I've never done taxes as a small business owner. And two 1099s that I've got to figure out. I've got to like settle back up with all these other people that these meetings have been pushed off. And so it's trying to refine that balance, but just to give myself grace in that and to really just like one thing at a time.
Mm-hmm.
I think you joined the new Instagram page that I created. It's Women Who Hunt Tough. And
I did. I was like, follow.
Yeah. And it's just another platform for us ladies who hunt. Like we do have to train differently than men. And I grew up in a family of 9 brothers where I would go out to backcountry with them, and I was always in the back, and I had to like mantra the hell out of that hike to be able to keep up with them and to be able to get there. Like, you got this. Whew, just, keep powering through. And then being a hunting guide and being out in the field with these guys that can literally run up the mountain. And I'm 5'1", I'm a small person, and as females, we are just designed differently. And so I created that page all for the aspect of these are the tools that I have found in the past 6 years being a hunting guide that has kept me strong, not only like physically, but mentally. And then by the time hunting season gets here, you're good to go. There's no crunch time to have to be able to train and get ready. You're already mentally and physically prepared for that. And I've had a lot of ladies reach out to me asking, like, how do you train?
Mm-hmm.
How do you stay strong? Like, what's your go-to training to be strong for hunting season? And so I figured, I'm just going to put together this page. And
definitely, we could do a whole other episode on that, because that is a topic in itself. I'm like, I refuse, as one of the only females out hunting with the boys, like, my ass ain't going to be in the back of the pack.
Exactly.
You guys are going to be trying to keep up with me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I've had moments like that where I've been out with some of my guy friends and they just charge up the mountain, and pretty soon they're sucking air, and I just walk right by them, and they're like, Draya. And I'm like, yep, you got to go slow and steady.
Yeah.
You got to breathe. Charge up the mountain. And so I would love to record another episode regarding that. I would love to get to the point where we can do live workouts together. And
so cool.
Let it be a platform that, like, I'm not just trying to like tell people how to someone else has other great ideas. I would love to be able to use that platform to share that.
I think that's so smart. And it's doing it now during like the off season, slower season, so that you're not having that oh shit moment when it's August,
Mhm.
September, October, and you're on the mountain wishing you would have.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Year round, I like to call it, it's just the lifestyle. It's the way of life versus like training. It's just what we do. It's just what I do. And you know, I'm sure everyone has their own things they enjoy. Maybe they're just strictly whitetail hunters, but for me, I love going out and looking for antlers. And so in the spring, that's a great way to train, is just going out and looking for sheds with my dog. And before you know it, you've done 6 miles that day and you've gone up and down and around, and you know,
Yeah, shed
versus
hunting
like,
is like my favorite workout.
mm-hmm, yeah, shed hunting and weighted hikes is where it's at for me.
Yeah, for sure. I couldn't agree more. With that, are there any tips that you have for female hunters? I'm sure being a guide, you've had a lot of moments with maybe other females, or just getting started. If there's anything that you have for somebody, that would be some helpful tips.
Absolutely. One, you don't need a man to hold your hand. I've always said
Preach
that.
it.
Grant, not saying there's, like you said, we all benefit each other in the field, but I've heard so many times these ladies being like, oh, my husband doesn't let me go to hunt camp with him. I wish I could hunt, but he never lets me go. Well, go on your own, but
Yeah.
easier said than done. Easier said than done. So in order to get to that, just realize that, like, go into it with a learning mindset that you are going to fail a lot, but each time you fail, you learn something new, and to just try and like hold grace for yourself. And like, I'm constantly humbled when I am out there. I love hunting with my dad. He's in his 70s and he's been hunting his whole life. He still messes up, but it's, you know, the wild is the best classroom there is out there. It's a great teacher. The more time you spend in the field, the more experience you get out there, the more successful of a hunter you are going to become. So for me, I will go out and sometimes just glass for an hour. Like I like to glass a lot. And the reason why is because you get to learn what the animals are doing. So let's say you go out and you're like, I'm going to glass from 2 o'clock until dark. Well, you don't see anything from 2 o'clock until maybe 4:30. But during that time, you're able to study the land. You're able to be like, okay, I'm going to put myself in a scenario. If I were to go out there, what is the easiest way to get to the top of that mountain? So you can learn a lot simply by just looking at the land. And then when the animals come out and they're moving, you learn a lot from them as well. Okay, it's in the evening. Why are they coming out of this dark timber? Are they going directly to water? Why are they feeding? Oh, now it's wintertime. They're on a south-facing slope. Why are they on a south-facing slope? Well, that's where the food is. That's where the sun is. That's where the warmth is. It's where their nutrition is. You know, in the summer, they're going to be in the dark timber where it's cool and where there's water. And so getting out and glassing is a great way to learn without having to put yourself in the field if you're not ready for that. And just because you don't fill a tag doesn't mean you failed as a hunter. It happens to all of us.
That would be me this last year.
Yeah, me too.
I'm like, 2 years in a row. Damn it, my freezer is looking empty. I don't like it.
Yeah, we went rabbit hunting yesterday because we're just like, we need meat.
Yeah.
We need meat. We didn't fill any tags. And this morning there was a little rabbit outside and I was like, oh,
dinner.
Go. Yeah. So don't be too hard on yourself. And if you are a woman and you're new to hunting, you want to get into it. And if there are any women-based clinics or events, things like that, whether it's even just social media pages, follow them, attend these events, because I personally have hosted like a women's big game clinic. So last year I hosted a women's big game clinic and a women's turkey hunt. And for both of those events, they were all new hunters and they learned so much. But not only that, they walked away with new girlfriends that are like really good friends now. And it's really cool to see. It's cool to see that evolve, because now that you've got girlfriends to do it with, it's like, all right, let's go. Like we said, it doesn't have to be this woman man thing, but it's a lot easier to learn from other women just because our minds, our brains are designed differently than men. And it's hard to learn from your significant other. Like my ex, he tried to teach me how to fly fish and I hated it because like I had this, like, it was, you know, our brains work differently. And then, I host these women, big game clinics, and these ladies are thriving. They're like sponges. Hey, watch out. There's a tree down on the trail. Watch your step. Oh, hey, oh, there's some loose rock. Watch it. Oh, watch out. There's a stick. Versus sometimes when you're out with your partner, they just go.
See ya.
Yeah.
That is so true. It's crazy because I'm in my 30s, so like 33. And not until this last fall, August, was my first time getting to go hunting with a girlfriend, just the two of us. And I was like, what is this life? It was so much fun. We left the boys back at camp with the kids, which was hilarious in its own, listening to the radio conversations. Like, would I ever radio you and be like, so what are we doing for dinner tonight? Like,
yeah.
Like, figure it out. I'm hunting.
Exactly. Yeah.
Good luck turning this off. Yeah. And it was so much fun. And then of course she moved. Thanks a lot, Candace. But yeah, I see the events that you guys put on, or just the different things come across social media. And I think how cool it is watching other women actually get to have that group of friends, because like I said, I don't have that. And so you're right. It definitely, maybe reaching out of your comfort zone a little bit and going to those could be helpful. And too, I think it's really smart. Like you said, there comes a time when a lot of us, I think, as females are hunting with like our dads or our husbands or boyfriends or our guy friends, whatever it may be. There's a time where you just got to rip off that Band-Aid and go do it by yourself. Mm-hmm. You can do it. Yeah. You've got all this knowledge, and I think you'll be surprised what really you do know once you're out there by yourself.
Yeah. It's very empowering.
I could not agree more. What upcoming adventures do you have with Ridge Patrol, with your hunting? What things are you excited about?
Yeah, so I guess I've covered a few of them. Obviously, the book. I'm working on the book. I'm hoping to have that up for a pre-sale in a couple months.
Perfect.
No promises there, but that's kind of the goal that I'm making. This book has all been like no pressure. I'm gonna write when I have time. I'm not trying to fill a deadline, but I'm feeling that calling that it's time to finish it and complete it and put it up for pre-sale. Filled June on the Ridge Patrol stuff. And I've got a women's pheasant hunt coming up in March in Utah with my good friend Britt Fable. She owns Dixie Top Outfitters. And so there'll be 9 ladies hunting. And then there'll be Elena, the founder of Rocky Mountain Sportswomen I was talking about, myself and Bridget, the owner of Dixie Top Outfitters, will be there. We're all going to have our dogs. It's going to be it's a 2-day hunt. So I'm really looking forward to that. Bunch of ladies getting together and hunting. And then just an exciting upcoming job here with Upper Canyon Outfitters. So I guided for them last fall, currently living on property, and season will start in May. And so just working for them, being outside, doing what I love, and then taking up some writing opportunities with Shoot Like a Girl, which is another organization all about women getting out and like being safe, like a lot of gun safety and hunting and outdoor safety. So kind of a lot of irons in the fire, nothing like huge, but like a lot of exciting things sort of just going on.
For sure. And we can link to all that in the show notes too, so everyone can find what's happening. Where does everybody find you? Where can we follow you on social media? You, Ridge Patrol, whatever it may be.
Absolutely. Ridge Patrol on Instagram is Ridge Patrol. Our website is ridgepatrol.com. TikTok, Ridge_Patrol. And if you want to connect with me directly, you can find me through that because I manage all those platforms as well. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on. It was so fun to get to know you and hear your story and how it all started. It's super inspiring and definitely relatable.
Yeah, thank you, Brittany. It was great to connect and great to chat, and hopefully someone can take something away from this.
I definitely think they can.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Draya. I think that is it. And like I said, I genuinely would love to have you come back on and discuss more about training, because it like speaks to my soul. I'm always with my weighted pack on my treadmill downstairs at an incline.
Yeah. Speaking of, I'm going to plug that one in. So for any of you ladies out there who hunt, or you're just outdoor women, but you're looking for specific training to get you ready for season, give us a follow. I just created the Instagram yesterday. It's Women Who Hunt Tough. no space, no underscores, women who hunt tough. And I'll be sharing the experiences I've learned being a hunting guide, like the tools that I have found. Also, daily inspiration and just like that sisterhood community.
Sweet. Yeah, that's needed. It's nice when you hit that niche, like right on, man. Speak to my soul. Please don't forget to subscribe. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star rating and review. It seriously helps more than you know. If you took something away from this podcast or you enjoyed it, please take a screenshot of you listening to it or a selfie and tag us on Instagram at The Reckoning Podcast or me at Brittany.long. We're excited to chat with you next week.